The next part of our lesson today is called the Sticky, Sticky Pine. And this is a folk tale. And are folk tales real? No, they're make-believe, aren't they? But they are passed down from generation to generation. So sometimes they change a little bit. So this is not one that I have heard before. This one's a new one for me. Maybe you've heard it before. I don't know. But let's go ahead and listen to it. We have some words that we're going to be listening for. The first word is sap. And we just had that up on our board with our tree, didn't we? Okay. And sap is a liquid that flows through the trees. Okay. That it kind of like keeps it alive, and it's really sticky. If you think of maple syrup, do you know how sticky maple syrup is? That is made from sap. So it's pretty sticky, isn't it? All right. That's going to be important at the end of the story. Oblong, that's a word that we don't hear that often. It's a shape. It's an oval, kind of like an egg. That's what oblong means. Okay? So you're going to hear that. Remain means to stay. If you remain in your seat, you stay in your seat. If you remain at home, like we had to do during COVID, then we stayed at home. And the last word is living, and that means we're alive, right? We're not dead. We're alive if we are living. So those 4 words are going to be in our story, and you're kind of used to these stories that you don't really have a very good picture, but we have one here and one at the end called the Sticky, Sticky Pine. So think of that maple syrup, or think of honey and how sticky that is. I just had honey for lunch and it was really sticky. All right. Here we go. Ready? Listening ears. You have to picture this in your head because we don't have the pictures. So that's kind of a cool thing. Once there was a woodcutter. He was very poor, but very kind. Never would he tear off the living branches of a tree to make firewood. Instead, he would gather only the dead branches on the ground. He knew what happened when you tore a branch off the tree. The sap, which is what we just talked about, which is like the blood for a tree, would drip and drip, just as though the poor tree were bleeding. Now, do trees have blood? No, but it's the same kind of idea. We have blood flowing, I couldn't say that word for a second, flowing through us, and pine trees have sap flowing through them. So since he didn't want to harm the trees, he never tore off the branches. One day he was walking beneath a high pine tree, hunting for firewood, when he heard a voice saying, "Sticky, sticky is my sap, for my tender twigs are snapped." The woodcutter looked, and sure enough, someone had broken 3 limbs off the pine, and the sap was running out. Skillfully he mended them, saying, "Now these tender twigs I'll wrap, and in that way stop the sap." So he was going to bandage the end of the branches so that the sap would stop dripping out. So kind of like when we get a bandage put on us when we have like a big cut or something. He tore a piece from his own cloth or clothes to make a bandage. No sooner had he finished than many tiny gold and silver things fell from the tree. It was money, a lot of it. The surprised woodcutter was almost covered up with it. He looked at the tree and smiled and thanked it. Is that better than the apple falling on your nose? That'd be fun to have money coming down from a tree, wouldn't it? Then he took the money home. There was a great amount, and he slowly realized that he was now a very rich woodcutter indeed. Everyone knows that the pine tree is a sign of prosperity in Japan, and sure enough, the grateful pine had made him very rich. Just then, a face appeared in the window. That'd be kind of freaky, wouldn't it? It was another woodcutter. But this woodcutter was neither nice nor kind. In fact, it was he who had tore off the branches of the pine and had broken its twigs. When he saw the money, he said, "Where did you get all that money? Look how nice and bright it is." The good woodcutter held the money so the other could see. It was oblong in shape. So that means oval. The way money used to be in Japan. And he had 5 baskets full. That is a lot of money, isn't it? Wow. He told the bad woodcutter how he got the money. "From that big pine tree?" "Yes, that's the one." Said the bad woodcutter, and ran away as fast as he could go. He ran right up to the old pine tree, and the tree said, "Sticky, sticky is my blood. Touch me, you'll receive a flood." "Oh, just what I want," said the bad man. "A flood of gold and silver." He reached up and broke off another branch. The pine tree suddenly showered him. You ready? It showered him with sticky, sticky sap, like honey or like maple syrup coming all down on him. Instead of money. Not gold and silver at all. The bad woodcutter was covered in sap. It got in his hair and on his legs and on his arms. And since it was so sticky, he couldn't move. And though he called for help, no one could hear him. He had to remain or stay there 3 days, 1 for each branch, until the sap became soft enough for him to drag himself home. And after that, he never broke another branch off a living tree. Do you think he learned his lesson? Sounds like it, huh? All right, so fun story to think about, but also to remind ourselves that we should be kind to nature and be kind to trees. It's not good for the trees if we break off the branches. Is it okay if we take branches off the ground? I remember when we were camping, we would go around to the different campsites after other people had left with our wagon, and we would get wood to take for our fires. But we didn't break them off the trees. That would not be a good thing to do, would it? All right, just before we take another little break, I want to do some position words. We're going to do top, middle, and bottom. All right, so when I talk about the top, I want you to do this. When I talk about the middle, I want you to do this. And when I talk about the bottom, what do you think I want you to do? Yep, go down to the floor. Good. I'm going to tell you a story about a boy who made a picture for his dad. I forgot what it's about. I had to look again. All right, so you ready? Dale drew a picture for his dad. At the top of the piece of paper, he wrote, "My dad." In the middle of the paper, he drew a picture of his dad playing baseball. And at the bottom of the paper, he wrote, "Love, Dale." So this might be something that your teachers or your parents at home might decide that they would like you to do, where you could write a letter to someone. You could put their name at the top. So my dad at the top, or your friend's name. Then a picture in the middle. And then what do you put at the bottom? Your name, like love and your name. So let's do it again. Where's top? Middle, bottom, middle, top, bottom. All right, I'll be right back.